Is this thing on? I'm going to assume it's on. I'm going to mute that because I don't like hearing my own voice when I'm streaming. All right. I am going to throw that out on the Twitter and then close the Twitter because I don't need that distraction. Moonin may or may not be here today. He's online, but I don't know if he's busy. And I'm just going to have a look at where this is since I left off. I have not touched this since leaving off, and I assume it's 10,000 trees, 30 frames per second. If I was just drawing this using Gmail, it would be about 50 average, but I should be able to speed this up quite a bit. These tree waves look rather cool. Okay. Greetings. All right, so I found a few things. One is that I can probably close this now because I'm done with that. I'm probably not going to be using the GML version anymore because it's slow. There's a couple ways I should be able to speed this up. One is that I found out that you don't actually... This is a bug in GameMaker. I reported this and Yo-Yo Games confirmed it. I found out I don't need to do that if I use vertex create from vertex buffer extended. Which would look something like this. I won't have any issues with things not being drawn when they should be the way I was earlier. So I can remove a couple of these lines and remove the buffer fill. And that's not really going to speed up the game, but these lines I don't think I need anymore either, because those are just comments that are not doing anything. I'm curious how much of an effect this will have. Some of this is doing operations that don't really need to be done. We are doing 6 assignments in this loop. I don't think that has much of an impact on performance. Because that's running in C++ and it's just assignments, it's nothing complicated. But if I can avoid having to do 6 assignments times every vertex in the vertex buffer, I will. This that I had open was the DLL version. Instead, I may be able to buffer copy that entire section. Out of curiosity, what will this look like if I just ignore all position, color, texture data, or normal color, texture data? Still looks the same. Oh, that's because I didn't recompile it, which I don't feel like doing right now. The source buffer is going to be source. Source offset is going to be 0. Destination buffer is going to be that one. Size. The size is going to be buffer.size source. And the destination offset, it should be just the address. Let's see, is Moonin going to be able to be here today? Okay, he says he will be listening. I assume he's doing other things on the side. That is fine. This shouldn't impact performance too much. Shaved off a few frames per second, but not too many. And if I were to recompile the DLL, I expect to more or less be able to get that back. Doing anything 10,000 times in the draw event is a lot, but buffer copy is pretty inexpensive. Greetings, Moonin. And we have messed something up. How much faster do I think? I'm hoping for at least twice just using GML. We'll see. I have some fun ideas of what I can do to speed it up. But why is it source buffer, source offset, size, vertex buffer, and destination offset? That should be correct. You heard 10x? I don't know where you got that from. That would be nice. I'm not going to count on it. Greetings, Dave. Right now, I think the source of the slowdown is the fact that rather than the actual math, there's the fact that we are doing 2 DLL calls per tree that we're trying to draw, and that does add up. The DLL calls themselves, so if I can minimize the number of these that I have to do, it should be better. I don't know why it's it put them all into the same location though. That's a little weird. I did I assume it's doing it at all since it's running at about the speed I would expect. Destination source position is in the XYZ, and the address, which would be the destination offset. Well, I can leave that as it is then. Let's rebuild that. The the thing I'm thinking of doing to speed this up though is writing position data to a separate buffer, and then I'm giving it all to the DLL at the end. It's going to be 12 bytes per 12 bytes per tree, XYZ, which are 4 bytes each. And if I make a separate version of this, let's call it cache or something. There's the vertex buffer. We can call it positions, source, and the addresses, I guess. This will not actually involve DLL calls. Buffer right instead position buffer Don't need the address actually. A float 32. It really would be float 64, wouldn't it? Because double precision, but floats are good enough. And position.x. We're going to store the XYZ and save it for later. And then do stuff with it later. So here the position buffer is buffer combined data. We don't need the source. We only need the position buffer and the actual position data. I'm gonna do a lot of hard coding stuff to sort of start with here. For example, let's give this a dumb name. A pointer to the combined target, a pointer to the combined positions, and length. I don't think I need the addresses anymore. I'm gonna hard code a bunch of stuff like the size of each tree, at least for now. That's really, I know I did this math the last time. That 324 is the number of bytes, right? Uh, 36 bytes per vertex. Or is that the number of bytes per... No, that's the number of bytes per tree. Okay, that's correct. So... var, that's GML. For int I0, I is less than length. Actually, we can do this badly. For keep doing it. Just to make sure. Yeah, that's 36 vertices, which is the number of vertices in this tree. Plus equals 9. And plus equals. That should allow us to skip a bunch of DLL calls and put everything in the right place still. think. That's gonna build correctly at least, right? Yeah. It is, however, not what I'm actually looking for. I'll give these better variable names later if and when it will help eventually, but if and when I see it's actually doing what I want to. So we're going to basically index the position of each tree and use that to update the position of the tree in the vertex buffer. Tree is not being syntax highlighted and it makes me suspicious, but it compiled, so that's fine, I guess. And then I'm going to need to actually call that function. That's going to be the vertex buffer, the position buffer, and I think that's it. The function name is going to be this, and it's going to take just a pointer, and a float, or a real anyway. Pointer, real. And what do you think about Vulkan? It's interesting, but I don't think it is what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people think Vulkan automatically will make a game faster, and that's not really what it is. It's just a different graphics API that gives you more control over how things are drawn, but in turn is a lot more work to set up. It seems more flexible, which is probably good for like future proofing and stuff, but it's not like the holy grail of making your game go zoom. I've already forgotten what the second argument I'm supposed to be giving this thing is. Length is just the size of the buffer. Like that. Yo-Yo Games has flown the idea of adding Vulkan support to GameMaker, which I assume is of interest to you, but it's probably not going to be very useful to most people who use GameMaker, so. This is probably going to crash on the first try or something, but it's we got to run it eventually. Wrong number of arguments. Well, that's one reason it'll crash. We are in an infinite loop and the game is never starting. Okay. Neither of these are two loops, but neither of these should be infinite. I don't know why that would have crashed outright. If I just do this, like how fast is it gonna work? Is that correct? Because we're not actually doing any work and it's still running at the same speed, which I have a hard time believing. And I think I know why. That would have just been infinitely allocating space in a buffer. So in this case, the slowdown is really in GML over here. Yep. Just the empty function call. What about the yo-yo compiler? This, I assume, will be much faster. If it ever, you know, there we go. Alright, so that's the time to beat, I guess. This is still very much not what I was hoping for something that's basically empty, but it's better. And if I can continue to work on this. So let's see why this is not working anyway. If I run it again, I didn't really change anything, but if I run it again, it's still gonna probably hang, right? Yeah, I don't, that's not going anywhere. I don't think there's anything that should be an infinite loop in here. There's also the little detail where arrays, structs in GameMaker are slower than I'd really like, and you seem to be... You're not stuck in a loop. At least I don't think you are kind of stuck in a loop. I think the math is wrong here. Tree should probably plus equal 3, right? Because that's just 3 positions and nothing else. We had plenty of fun with offset math the last time. And bits versus bytes versus... something tells me that we kind of sort of seg-faulted. Maybe instead of passing in the size of the buffer, which maybe could have return the wrong answer. Let's just say double count while tree plus is less than count, and then just tree times 3 plus the index. Oh, you know what? that offset is slightly wrong too. So there's a couple math errors in there. I could definitely see why that would have caused problems. Alright, it's crawling. That's mostly because of the printouts, but more importantly, it's the tree and the index are correct. Except I don't think tree was actually correct because it would have been incremented before all this happened, which is not what we want. Whenever you get up from the computer, you pause the stream like it's a recorded video. It happens. I have done that too. I wonder how fast this would be if I did not use structs for this. If I just used position XYZ. But that can wait for another day because structs are slow for big operations. Alright, so this just means there's some math wrong in here. For each tree's position is going to be a multiple of 324 because that's how many bytes they are. How many, rather floats they are, which is 4 times that number of bytes. And then you're going to iterate from 0 to said 324, increment the counter by 9. Is incrementing by 9 correct? Yes, it is. Pretty sure these are the right indices. And the combined positions is going to be tree times 3 plus... This is always going to be 0. That might not be a useful part of the calculation. I should probably lower the number of trees just to make it go faster when I'm like trying to test or something. Still not. If I reduce the number of trees by a factor of 10, that should yeah. I think this is correct too. If I were to just... If I were to just grab like the first vertex position or something, that would be pretty useless. That wouldn't really tell me anything. For each tree, I can really say I can have multiple variables of the same name if they're different types, can't I? What sort of keyboard? The generic one that my computer came with, usually. If nothing else, that's less code, and it should be easier to see what I'm doing if there's less code. Constant size is kind of useless right now. Rear definition of formal parameter. Okay, so I'm not actually allowed to do that. Like that then, I guess. I don't imagine that erased the math error anywhere, but yeah, no trees here. If I run off into the distance, I don't think I'll see any. When I was doing this yesterday, the first one sort of spawned in the middle of the grass, and it's not there. Which probably means that they're all going and ending up in the same exact position in space exactly. Can I use printf in C++? Would that be easier than using the standard output stream? Probably, right? C++ is supposed to be backwards compatible to C. I just never used printf. We are iterating over 100 trees. Printing that out in the draw event should be more manageable than doing it 1,000 times, right? Barely. I think I know the problem, and I think it's something that's very stupid, which these are actually all zeros, because I don't think this little part here I actually did. All right. Forgot about that. That might have been the problem. Vertex buffer, position buffer, source. Vertex buffer, position buffer, source is what, VB underscore tree. Position. I hope that's all it is. I don't know why it was putting all the trees in the same place the first time though. I'm seeing something up there. There's like a single line being drawn somewhere. Anyway, the address of the position is correct. It's looking like the index is correct also. Yeah, 0 through 24, 648, and so on. And then the iterator I here is just each vertex in the combined target buffer, plus 0, 1, 2 for the position x, y, z. If this is anything like the last room, I'm going to mess around for like an hour and then it's going to start to fall into place, but I hope it goes a little faster than that. Yeah, there's definitely data there. I didn't actually compile that, did I? There's definitely data there, but it's just not where it's supposed to be. It's running plenty fast. I forget what 1,000 trees benchmarked in regular GameMaker. If I just do it for 1, what happens? I don't even know exactly where the tree is. We can force it to the world origin though. So it should be here, and we can see if it's actually looking at the data that we want it to. Fortunately, there is not a great way of debugging inside DLLs here in GameMaker land, but did that actually, did I hit the right keyboard shortcut? Didn't look like I did. And this is just going to something's wrong. All right, time to debug the actual buffers. Debugger, Windows, buffers. This is the source. This, depending on which one is created first. So the combined target and the combined data. This is the one that turns into the vertex buffer, and this is just the data, which is just 0, 0, and what is that? Oh, that's a floating point number with the height of the tree. We do not seem to be copying correctly. All right. Source buffer, buffer offset. I know buffer copy works. I don't know why it's not working now. Destination buffer and then destination offset. Am I using the right function? I am. But the other printout is sort of drowning it out. Source size 12. I don't think that should be 12. It should be 324 or 1296 anyway. Vertex buffer, position buffer, source, position, and address. Oh, it's buffer tree, it's not. That's the vertex buffer, obviously, that's a single one. Okay, now it's in the right place. Okay, that's one crisis averted. I can take that out. I can take out all of these printouts, and I think it'll do what I want. No need to have a million printouts clogging up the console. Viewership is going down. There were a number of people here at the beginning, and then I started just doing hardcore C++, and people stopped being interested. All right, now it's working. Without any complaints, which is good. I'm doing far fewer DLL calls now. If I were to go back to the 10,000 trees and use that as my benchmark, this was getting about 50 FPS, and it's actually doing worse than it was back before I did anything. Mysterious. I wonder why this is actually doing worse than before, because it's doing less work. I am doing less work, right? It's only one DLL call versus 20,000, for example. Unless it's buffer write being slow. I can profile this. Also, these trees are all being planar, and they should be sort of hexagonal. There should be 6 planes, or 3 really, double-sided. Break out the profiler. I'm just gonna let this run for a couple seconds, and then I'm going to check to see which individual function calls are taking up the most time. What about buffer write? Buffer write is not taking much time at all. Oh, this is in GML though. This isn't in Yo-Yo compiler. Seeing thousands of trees. Yes, that was one of the earlier experiments I did in 3D, wasn't it? I'm not sure why they're all planar though. That's the correct size. Oh, you know what? I know what. 324 is the number of triangles. I need the number of bytes, which would be 1296. Now, so they're basically just like overwriting themselves. Much better. Okay. I can do a little bit of a side-by-side testing, I guess. If I switch this back to the Yo-Yo compiler, how is it going to perform? The time to beat is 55 FPS. Alright, that's about 10% better. Maybe 8% better. We're almost pushing 60 frames per second. 5% boost is still good. It's not obviously what I'd like it to be. If I were to do this with what I had before, this isn't relevant. Buffer tree is the source, the position is that. Didn't need the address? No, this is the Gmail version, isn't it? I need the DLL version, which has the address. This is probably gonna do about 40, I think. I want to say this was doing about 40, yeah, 39, 40, 44-ish. Okay. And then if I were to do this all manually, do none of this nonsense. Classic way. without any magical shenanigans, we are just going to be messing up the matrix build. I think this does about 55, maybe 50 or so, 55. Fabulous. Oh, SPR heart. I don't know how I ended up with that. Anyway. Alright, so just using regular old vertex submit. So this is actually an improvement of about 30% or so. It's averaging 40, it's converging on about 44 frames per second. And when I used the version with the DLL, it did about 60, so that's about 33% improvement. I thought it was faster than that for some reason. Maybe I was testing with a smaller number earlier. I should probably whip out a notebook and write this down or something. Alright, that's cool, but that's not drawing anything because it's, yeah. I'm writing this down. Submitting individual vertex buffers was about 44 frames per second. Which one is this? This is submitting to the DLL individually, which is about 48, which is actually better already. Uh, 48 frames per second. Doing it in regular GML was like 5 frames per second. I'm not gonna put much stock in that one. And caching them for later was doing about 58, I think. Oh no, now it's reading 67 or so. But I was not combining them. Okay, so I wasn't actually doing the heavy operation. Yeah, I think it was 58. If I wanted to, I could put this in a configuration to just test them by swapping out a configuration. Yeah, 58, 59 maybe if we're lucky. Alright. So what I had at the start of the stream was already about 10% better than what I started with, and what I'm doing now is about, as I said, 30% better. I will write a note that this is 10k trees. There's still ways to make this nicer. This is all in the Yo-Yo compiler. If I were to switch this to VM, what would it be? In the VM, it's about 35, 34. Is Exor around? I feel like he'd find this interesting. 30, about 34, we'll call it 34. And this is 10k trees. Interpreted GML. Or just-in-time GML, anyway. You want to see the trees bouncing on the ground. Momentarily. I just want to... Yes, Corey, let's go with that. I just want to test the other strategies for this first. Just doing it individually with a bunch of matrix sets and all that is going to be... Seriously? That's only a little slower than it was with the in the Yo-Yo compiler. I know Yo-Yo compiler doesn't do a lot for graphics, but it was 37. What was I doing last time? This feels wrong. Hang on. Default config is going to be just matrix set vertex submit. Individual is going to be this one, and don't make it a derived config of that, and once. And then okay, so these different things are only going to happen if one of these conditions are true, and these are going to be determined by the config, so I can just swap between the test cases in the dropdown. This is going to be if once we're going to do this. This is if individual. We're going to do this. The GameMaker asset compiler should optimize these loops so that these statements so that if a config is false, it won't ever run in the first place. And if normal, do that. The tree position might as well be that. Combine, this is only going to run if once, which I realize makes no sense, and the vertex buffer is only going to be created if we are using the DLL strategy. And now I should be able to just switch between test cases quickly. For example, this is the default config. We are not bouncing up and down. This is the GameMaker VM. We are getting about 38 frames per second. Which is more or less what I wrote down. If I were to switch this to individual, which is going to be this, pushing each thing onto the DLL, onto the combined buffer with the DLL each time, which is a lot of DLL calls, we are getting about 28 frames per second, which is noticeably worse. And Switching to the normal mode. To the once mode, rather. We are not having a good time with that in the GameMaker VM. I was also getting about 28 FPS with that. I feel like that's wrong. Let's see if I can figure out what's taking all the time. Doing a lot of buffer writes, we're doing a lot of buffer copies. Buffer copy is only about 10%? No. It's about 5% of the entire thing. This is copying the buffers is not anywhere near where the slowdown is. Calling vertex buffer push cache 10,000 times is obviously doing a lot. Vertex create buffer from buffer extended is 4 whole milliseconds. Okay. Vertex delete buffer is 1 whole millisecond. That doesn't sound right. I could have sworn I was testing vertex create buffer from buffer earlier, and oh, you know what? I think I know. I think regular vertex create buffer from buffer is just like creates a reference to the original buffer, whereas the extended version has to create a copy, I think. So if I were to just do the like one single buffer fill just to get around the bug from earlier. And just like write a single 0 into it, because that's all we need. Then we can I only need the source buffer and format. I don't need the length, obviously. This may be faster. And it is marginally. What does that vertex count mean? That was the wrong. Yeah, that's better. Million triangles. But also it should be the other way around. Million vertices. 360,000 triangles. If I were to get some new paper, I can benchmark this a little bit more in depth. Just gonna let that run for a minute. And if we sort by time, no, vertex create buffer from buffer is taking the same amount of time as it was before. All right, so this is VM once 10K trees. And I'm just gonna write this down. 28.4 FPS. The cache function is taking 22 milliseconds. 0.4. Guess I'll go with 3 significant digits. Create buffer is 3.84. Combine is 2.42. Vertex delete buffer takes an entire 1.2 milliseconds. That doesn't sound right either. That should just be dereferencing anything, something. That shouldn't be like allocating space or anything. This shouldn't be filling it with anything. Individual then next. We can just let this go for a minute or so. It's definitely slower. And it does run slower when I have the profiler open. By a fair amount, but it looks like 24-ish. Maybe 25. I'll call it out like 25.3. Anyway, looking through the numbers, the push DLL is taking 32.2. Takes about, I want to say about 40% longer than the other one, that individual function call. That's good. Create buffer from buffer is largely the same. Um, 384. Actually, that's exactly the same. Submit. I didn't write that down last time, but I imagine that would be the same too. I think it was 1.7-ish. And lastly, just in GML, no shenanigans involved. We'll say 36.7, 36.6, 36.7. So that's interesting. In in the VM, submitting each vertex buffer on its own is actually still faster than using the DLL, but in the Yo-Yo compiler it blows it away. Probably because there's less actual GML happening here. I wonder if I were to inline this, if it would move faster in the virtual machine. Anyway, if we switch to Yo-Yo compiler, cannot debug that, but we can see the average frame per second. It's 56, 57. It's going up actually, if I just leave it a minute. 58.7, 58.8. 58.8. Individual. Forty, 44, 46.4, 46.5. If anyone wants to talk about game dev in the chat, this is a good time to do it because I'm just waiting for data to show up. We'll call this 46.8. And in regular GML, is about the same. 46.3. All right, if I were to no, it's dropping a little. Nah, close enough. If I were to $58.8 divided by 46.3, it's about 25% faster. It's not bad. Wrapping this up and making it nice is going to be a little bit of an ordeal. I wrote down sort of how I would create a an API for this. Hang on, wait, one more thing. If I were to make this an array instead of a struct, because structs in GML are slow, as I said, how would that affect things? Like this. It probably wouldn't be much, but not having to deal with structs is definitely a bit of a help. We went from 46.3 to like 47.4. So you'll gain like another single FPS like this. Probably not worth it. What was that? Yeah, just barely over 60, 62-ish. Well, that doesn't have to do anything with what I was doing, unfortunately. I'll change these all back to structs because that's what I've been benchmarking with so far. I was just curious. So realistically, I don't... 52,000. I don't foresee anyone ever using this with more than like 2,000 objects at once. This is definitely adequately fast. Let's see how fast this comes in. This is about 250 FPS, 260. I don't know if I were to just do it in GML, it'd probably be like 230-ish, I think. Oh, 180-ish. Okay, 190, maybe 200. That's definitely decent. It's not the two times like doubling of speed, but it'll do. Okay, I can get rid of... This is... No, I won't get rid of it yet. This is sort of like all... Like, there's no reason to do this anymore. I want to set it up. If anyone wants to try this out, by the way, I can make an executable, or at least distribute the code so that you can play with it yourself. If anyone wants this, let me just make this, is this public? Is this the public repository? Oh, it is. All right, well, in that case, there is the matter of making this a little nicer. This is the GML version. I have no need for this anymore. I thought about enabling rotation and allowing you to allowing you to specify rotation in the when you combine the vertex buffers like this, but that would be a lot of matrix math on the CPU, which is going to be slow, so I'm not going to do that. GML version was kind of only there as a starting point anyway. I was in no way going to use that in actual in an actual game. I'm just documenting the notes of what I'm doing here in the Discord with Moonin, so he like knows what's going on just in case. Fast begin. I need a name for this. I like to name things after birds. What's a fast bird? Sounds dumb, but we're gonna do it. I name everything after birds. This can be... initializing... I'm gonna try and like make this modular now, but we're gonna initialize the vertex buffer. And we can initialize that to like... what is that? That's like 16 million? We can initialize it to like a megabyte. Hang on, before I do anything else, I do want to know, if I do align these to 4 bytes each, will that help? Supposedly aligning your buffers to the right size can make writing to them a little faster. This is the default config, so we will not be actually making use of that code, but I wanna find out. If I align it to 4, will I get above 50? What was it? 58.8 FPS real like this? Not really. That had really no effect. Yeah, that's within like statistical noise. That had no effect, but I guess we can commit it anyway. No, I won't, because that's not even going to be there soon. That can be a grow buffer. It's really kind of excessive. I don't know if it's like reasonable to assume you'll ever use more space than that. More than what? 1024 things. Actually, you know what am I talking about? I already am. That's fine. Alright, that's gonna be Falcon begin, Falcon end. Is going to be similar. Actually, is it? Hang on. I didn't push that out yet, did I? No. Good. This is the setup. Alright, this is going to be very simple. Begin is just going to involve seeking to the beginning of those buffers. And I'll deal with later. There's going to be add vertex buffer. Boofer, add vertex buffer, and that's going to be very much this. Don't need those two because those are behind the scenes. The position is, I'm just going to say XYZ, and the address is going to be behind the scenes. I'll deal with it later in my favorite last words, Moonin. This is where I'm actually caring about, like, optimizing access speed of GameMaker variables. A few checks are gonna need to happen. If buffer gets size, actually wait. If the buffer. I am full of unique ways of misspelling the word buffer, aren't I? Tell the tell position in the vertex buffer plus the size of the source that you're adding is greater than size vert, or tell data plus 3 is greater than size data. Then we'll be starting over. And seeking back to the beginning. And then we'll actually be writing the data. We will be copying the source into the vertex buffer. and then seeking ahead. All right, I think I got this. I think I got this down. Again, going to make that a commit without testing it. And then Falcon End is going to be the important one. This is going to be where the actual drawing happens. I guess I can pretend to implement this. I'll pretend to implement that in a minute. That's just going to be this. Take no parameters, just do this behavior. We can get rid of the sort of guard macro things. Combine. This can also get folded into here. And that's really going to be this function. We'll just cache the vertex and the data. Like that. Tree count is going to be the tell of the data divided by 3. The format is going to be this, and then we are going to... I really wish we didn't have to create and destroy the vertex buffer every time. I really wish there was a fast way we could do that internally. Can I request that in a feature request? That would make GameMaker a lot easier to use. Anyway. We're going to end there. If once... We're going to end... Actually, wait. Deal with that in a minute. There is an edge case. There is a possible edge case of... I'm trying to do something here with no data. So if no vertex data has been added, that would probably be a big waste of time and not make anything happen. So we can just skip that case, not bother at all. All right, now we can insert this into the code and we can attempt to use it. We no longer need individual vertex. All right, that looks good. I don't think address is needed for anything. Yeah. Like that. Address isn't needed for anything here. So we might as well not keep track of it for the sake of speed. There was one other edge case I thought of that I would probably run straight into if I'm not careful. Oh, and that's right. I need when I, for reasons still unknown, known as a bug in GameMaker, buffer. I have to do this nonsense, don't I? Like that. I think we should be good. It's probably not going to work on the first try, but if it does, that'll be great. OBJ camera draw line 41. Yes. Moonin is sending me memes. We have an off by something error, and then it completely just crashed outright. Okay. It worked for one frame, and then, like, not again, which is interesting. I think that was one frame. It might have been a couple frames. In the VM, things are fine. Fine. Things are sort of fine. Some of the trees are normal, and some of them are a jumble of God knows what, though, and I don't know what's with that. I think I know what's with that. I should probably go back to using the extended version of buffer create buffer from vertex buffer. Source buffer format, source offset is going to be 0. Number of vertices is going to be tel divided by, that is the number of bytes, divided by 36 is the bytes per vertex. It's probably just a bunch of junk on the end. There we go. All right. It's not quite as good as before. In the VM, with the once setup. Alright, so it's doing about 4 FPS worse than before, which isn't terrible. If I switch that to the Yo-Yo compiler, it's probably going to look better. Moonin is sending me memes on Discord. I think this is maybe not the best time, and it crashes. It crashes on YYC, which is like the big draw of this, but not on the virtual machine, and I don't know why. I just opened VS Code by accident. VS Code. Thank you. What was it? It didn't give me an error message when I ran it on the Yo-Yo compiler, did I? It just broke at an unknown point. So that means I'm gonna have to debug this the fun way. I can probably get rid of the individual config, can't I? Yeah, it works for like 3 frames and then it just dies. It's not like it leaked memory or anything. If I just don't call the DLL, Will it still do that? I assume it's a problem in my GML and not the DLL. I feel like it is not actually. I feel like that FPS reel is not quite accurate. Oh yeah, I see the actual FPS is definitely lower there. But it wasn't crashing. This is the only thing that really should change. What? It's fine now, I think. I didn't change anything. Okay. This is very ridiculous. Alright, it crashed that time. What happened the last time? It was working fine once, except it didn't really look like it was performing nearly as well as it should, probably because it was printing out the value, and then it just went back to crashing. As far as I know, there's nothing wrong with the C++. There's no, like, out of bounds or anything. Wait a minute. Let's see if it works with a small number. It works with a small number. It seems like here it was cutting it off at 200. And then something bad happened. And then it crashed when I hit the escape key for some reason. I can really just tell it to begin there and then start it over again. Oh, I think I know what's wrong. Destination offset. Okay, so I know what's wrong. That's going to be that we're still writing things to the wrong place somehow. That's one thing that's wrong anyway. Why was it? It said that was like 200 trees though, which it shouldn't be. I hope that fixed it. I'm not sure why I was working on virtual machine GML, but yep, that's back. And we are still performing better than just submitting everything individually, but not astonishingly better. Not what it was before. Okay. I should probably have tested that commit before making it. We'll see if we can speed this up. Does the GML pragma force in line? I would like to inline all of these scripts specifically. The yo-yo compiler should sort of do it for you, but I don't know if it is or not. If it inlines them, I should get a small performance boost. Nope, we're back to crashing. Is telling it to inline breaking for some reason? Is it crashing anyway? Did I just get lucky that one time? It's still crashing. Okay. And yet when I print it out, it doesn't crash, like regularly. This is extremely weird. I really hope I haven't found another bug in Gmail. We're still getting about that 10% performance boost, but it's not 25%, and it's certainly not more like I was hoping for. I do have one other thing I want to test though, and that is VB underscore trees isn't actually frozen. And I wonder if that will make the regular version in the default config. I wonder if that will make it faster by any meaningful amount. Okay, using frozen buffers gives about 53 FPS. The DLL at optimal at its height was about 58. So again, it's about 10%, but if I align the tree vertex buffer to 4, will that help? I do also realize though that making them wave around like this is probably not going to slow it down, but it's like a little bit of extra CPU time that's not happening when I'm using the default config. So let's just see what happens if I don't do that. Maybe that'll be a more accurate number. Crashed. Tel data should definitely not be 200 though. If we're writing 3 F32s into it, that's 12 bytes. But you know what? It's a grow buffer. It's not the thing that's actually causing it to get cut off is this thing, which is what, 65 536. There's about 100 trees in there. Let me... There really isn't a reason for that to be a power of 2. We got 3084 before it died that time. $9,200 bytes or numbers, values. That should be divided by 12 because each position is 12 bytes. That might be what it is. That looks good. It's putting about 700 trees in the batch. Which sounds about right, given the size of the vertex buffer the other time. And, okay, now it's doing something funny at the distance. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But it's working. I am interested in why it's doing this. Funnily enough, I don't think these trees at her are actually part of it. It's looking like there's junk data somewhere. Probably just ghosts. Now they're spazzing out in the middle too. This makes it feel like there's some like junk data on the end of the vertex buffer that's just getting erased periodically. It's also, interestingly enough, running faster when I use the smaller maximum vertex buffer size. And it's better still when I do this, although the weird behavior out there is still there. Okay, that's interesting. The double speed goal may be realistic yet. Although, it's definitely holding a steady 60 frames per second now, that's for sure. And, God, this is really weird. What could that even be? If I'm like continuously... No, that doesn't look like it. I was gonna say if I'm continuously updating the things at the end of the vertex buffer that are in like the last one that's there before it gets submitted for the last time, maybe that would explain why they're just popping in and out, but it doesn't look like I'm doing that. Oh wait, maybe I am actually. Alright, well, it is 10 p.m. I would like to stop now. I would like to go eat something and probably start thinking about talking loudly less. You can probably hear me. I'm trying to not talk too loudly to begin with, but that was exciting. It's more or less working. I got a actually sizable speed increase out of that. If I were to decrease this further, I wonder if it would continue scaling up well. But no, it's not doing quite as well as before. I'll leave it at 500,000 vertices. Alright, I guess that's it. I will stop. I'll probably release this as an extension at some point if I can get it working nice and without all that like ghostly business happening. Yeah. I'm as bad at ending streams as ever.